Go to Bob and the.
I didn't know what to think. It's certainly a long road and a tough road to get to where we're at. I'm proud of every step that we've taken along the way. I think that we can still be better. I think that these are really good times, and I think we're just getting into them, and the best is still yet to come here at Penske Racing. I really believe in the process we have going forward, and bringing on Joey is certainly one piece of that. Certainly the added continuity that Paul and I have with this being our third season together is phenomenal, and everyone on the team that's followed up through the nationwide side and beyond. I like the structure we have with the nationwide car and how we continue to bring in people. I like the future we have with guys like Ryan Blaney, who won last night. Just every step of the way, I feel like Penske Racing is putting itself in a position to be a team that can win multiple titles over the next few years, and to be the elite team, elite company it's capable of being across the field in NASCAR. And so I'm very proud of those efforts, and I'm proud to be associated with it. I've made it a point to not try to overstate my role in that, because it is a team that does it. It's Roger, it's Walt, it's Bud, it's Paul, it's Travis Gosler, it's Michael Nelson, it's Tim Cindric. You name them, it's all of us. We all have that responsibility to make it happen. And certainly I might be one of the loudest in the group, but it takes all of us to make it happen, and I like where we're going.
Let's go over here to the left. Raise your hand, Jim. We'll get you the mic, Jim Utter. And then we'll go to Bob and then Lee.
Jim Utter, Charles Observer. Brad, Roger said earlier that he's been wanting to race the 48 since about as long as he's been in this sport.
Yeah, me too.
In Victory Lane, you talked about this being a heavyweight title fight, but only round one. Was it more of that way because of who you were racing at the end of this race today?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it for sure. It's all encompassing, but that was certainly part of it. And we all know how good his team is. We all know how good he is. And look at the resume over the last 6 years. Hey, look at the resume over the last 10 years. It's impeccable. To be racing him, whether it was for the lead or for 10th, is an accomplishment.
Let's go over here to Bob.
Bob Hocker, Sporting News. Brad, Jimmy said that on your last pit stop that you kind of came up on the track a little bit early and you may have impeded him a little bit, but he also said he didn't think that he said it probably didn't affect the outcome of the race because you were so good on that last run. So I'm curious if you were aware. I mean, when you come off a pit road, how difficult is it here because the whole backstretch is turned and you're not on, and the apron's very flat before you come up. And then also, was the car on that last run the best, and did you do anything to it to make it the best at the end?
I think I understand your second question, but I'm not sure what your first question is.
First question is, I mean, is it tough to figure out where to blend in here because of kind of the nature of the track?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at it, there is no enforced line like you see in other sports, and that's not a bad thing. That's just one more thing to monitor during the race. But it's certainly I don't want to say a gentleman's agreement. It's a policy of merging down the backstretch or up off of turn 2, I think is what it says specifically in the driver's meeting. And I feel like that's what we did. So, you can make rules that count it down to the inches and just make it a pain in the ass for everybody that participates in the sport. Or you can just have a rule like we do, and I felt like I was inside those guidelines. And I think NASCAR agreed as well based on their no call. But certainly that's something that we'll continue to get better clarification as we race and as we understand, and that's how I understand it. The other question was about if we had a.
Did you make any adjustments to make it the best car?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question for Paul. I'm not sure because the last run the car was just really good. I was very happy.
Paul, you want to maybe address that?
Yeah, Brad kind of asked me the same question there in Victory Lane, and we made some small changes throughout the day, but going back and forth from 2 tires to 4 tires, sometimes you got to be careful on how you adjust on the race car. And for us, the last stop was just 4 tires and the fuel we needed to get to the end. But obviously, I don't know if the 48 just lost handle or what, but we were definitely our best on the run that counted. So I guess that's the important part.
Let's go to Lee, and then Nate.
Lee Spencer, Fox
I
Sports.
just did, yeah. Go ahead.
Brad.
Did you see the shock fell off the 17? It's on ESPN.
Yes.
Coverage is excellent.
We talked to you this morning about what you felt, when you woke up, and obviously you were just probably a few minutes from getting out of bed, right?
No, I was up early. I was excited about this race.
But what does it mean to you at this point, after everything that you've fought through, to be leading the points? I mean, you've led the points in Nationwide, but this is Sprint
Sure.
Cup. What
Yep.
does that mean to you after everything that you've been through?
I don't know yet. I really don't. I haven't allowed it to sink in, and my thought process has been in what do I need to do to be the best driver over the next 8 or 9, I should say. And I'm not going to let it sink in. I'm going to focus on the next 9, and I know everybody on my team's going to do that. It's great to get to the points lead, but we've got so much racing left, and it would be a disservice to today's accomplishments to allow our focus to get off of tomorrow's workload.
5 laps to go, though. You were already, saying it was Miller time.
No, I was wishing it was Miller time.
You hadn't even taken the checker.
Yeah, I mean, it was. The races get really long when you're leading, especially at the end. I'm sure that's how Jimmy felt too when he was leading. But just a long race, but a good race for our team.
Let's go to Nate, and then we'll go back up to the press box, and then we'll come back downstairs. Go ahead.
Nate Ryan, USA Day. Brad, I know you're going to go back and watch this race on DVR, and you're going to find, following up on Bob's question, you're going to find that Jimmy took umbrage at the way that you merged back on, at the way you blended back on there. And I know that after Michigan, you guys kind of had the 48 a little bit spun out there too. Are you still relishing that? Are you still thinking there's a mental edge that you and Paul are trying to play against Jimmy and Chad Knaus?
It's not for me to speak about a mental edge. That's for you guys to speculate. And if you want to ask him about that, that's fine. But it's not for me to speculate. But when you're winning races and running up front like we did today, it means a lot to everybody. It means a lot for your own team, and it means a lot to others sometimes. So I know that watching a 48 win quite often. That has, that does have an effect over time, a psychological advantage. But, it's not for me to speak.
Press box, go ahead for a couple questions.
Brad, Nick Demon again. Did you get a chance to watch any of the IndyCar race yesterday? And Will came up short second year in a row. Do you kind of feel like now it's your chance to, or do you feel like you need to now bring in the championship for Penske Racing as a whole company, IndyCar, NASCAR, and company-wide?
Well, it was certainly unfortunate to see Will have his problem there yesterday, but I felt that way whether or not he won or lost. Our goal was still to win the captain here a Sprint Cup championship, and certainly wasn't going to make an excuse if Will won that we didn't have to. We're going to try and win no matter what the circumstances are, and I think that's why RP keeps us employed over here.
Go ahead, press box.
Monty Dutton, Gaston Gazette. Brad, just discounting Talladega, which has been good for you, but is obviously a perilous spot.
Sure.
When you look ahead at the rest of the chase, is there any place that you feel like you have something to prove that you say, boy, if we come out of there with a points lead, we're rolling?
Homestead, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Just call me Captain Obvious, Monty. I got the captain. I'm Captain Obvious, but no, I'm not going to feel good until it's over. I'm really not. There's not going to be a weekend where you go, all right, it should be easy for me. It's just not the way the sport works. And we see that time after time after time.
But is there any track that you consider your weakness that there's a challenge, particular challenge?
Well, I think if you look at our track record over the last 3 years, every track could have an argument made for being our weakness. Every one of them. Martinsville we've run well at, and certainly had some things happen to us here and there that have kept us from having a great finish. Homestead, we ran pretty well there last fall, and it didn't work out. And Phoenix, we ran pretty well there, and you go back to our history, and our average finish isn't great. I think you could make a case for and against the two-team at every track remaining through the chase. And, it's our goal or our job to focus on this year and these races and to not allow the history to affect us for good or bad.
Let's come back downstairs now. Let's, John, did you have a question? Let's get John, and we'll go back over here and get David and Dave.
John Reyes, Roger and Brad and Paul, let me ask this question for some clarification. Is the 48 what the 48 has done or what the 48 can do that is concerned with you guys in your head? And can you concentrate so much on the 48 that there's another driver out there that can put you out of the game?
Well, let me say this, that it's obvious, as I said earlier, that it's not just the 48, it's the whole Hendricks organization that I said it was a gold standard. And I think that they've won championships. Obviously, you've seen what he's been able to accomplish this year. And starting on the pole here, leading the laps he had, obviously he was the one that we had to beat. But I don't think that it's putting us in a deficit position. I think what's really happening is we're seeing where we need to be, and we need to be a little bit better. And there's we've got, the Gibbs team, the Roush team, so it just isn't the 48. But I guess we see so much of the 48, and Jimmy's been such a great champion. Look at Gordon and the rest of them and how Earnhardt's run this year. I mean, it just shows you. And they can get, when you have 4 cars in this chase, we have a tough time running 2 competitively, and they have 4. So I think anyone that's in the sport would have to say, like the Yankees maybe, or someone in football. But, they're, to me, the gold standard, and we want to beat them. And we want to beat them fair and square. And I think that, quite honestly, I'd have to thank, Rick Hendrick and Dale Jr. When they said I could hire Brad to run both in the Cup and the Nationwide, because he got his early roots there. So to me, it's there's always someone you're trying to equal or better, and I think what Paul's been able to do. I've heard people say, hey, there's some great crew chiefs up and down that pit lane, but Paul Wolf's one of them, and that's, to me, he's done that only not because he talks too much, for sure. He does it, puts the numbers on the board, and I think that's what we need to do. For the next 9 races is focus on our own stuff. Always have someone out there that we're trying to beat, and I think that's where we are as a team.
Let's go over here to David Newton.
Yeah, Brad, David Newton, ESPN.com. I think at Michigan, when you were calling out the 48 car a little bit about the rear end suspension, you said the 48 car has the most speed, the best history as far as the chase is concerned, but it's my job not to roll over and give it to them. We're going to keep them honest through this chase.
Well, it was through the chase, not in Chicago, and there's still 9 weeks left. Anytime you win, it's a bit of a mission accomplished for that particular weekend, but the chase isn't about one particular weekend. It's about 10, and there's a long road to hoe.
Let's go to Dave Coleman right here to the left.
Dave Coleman, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Brad, or maybe Paul, you guys came in for the last stop. I think you're about a second change behind, came in, took the lead. Where did you pick up that second and change? On the track, that extra lap, or coming in, or in the pits?
I'm guessing it was the pit crew. I don't know, Paul.
Yeah, until we go back and review it, I'm not really sure. I was a little surprised myself. I thought with the lead they had, they would at least be able to keep that. And but like I got to say, I mean, the pit crew did a great job. It's important. They stepped up when it counted, and Brad's been one of the best guys on and off pit road here. Through the summer months, we see that week in and week out with, the post-race dartfish stuff, and that's important. It's every little part, and like I said, there's not one thing to me that stands out where we're better than we were last year's chase. It's every area from the guys back of the shop building these cars to the pit crews to Brad being a little better to myself and my engineer making good calls and even just the mechanics working on the car being a little bit faster making changes during practice because every lap counts and it's I don't think you can point to one area where we're improving right now.